And we're now recording. So hi, everyone. Welcome to today's event. On learning from each other and growing from the experience. It's a really exciting part of our Coverdell Conversation series, which we are starting at USF. This is the second one happening, and it is always a work in progress, and we are learning from it each time. But I am Kristen Vogel. I am the Peace Corps recruiter at University of South Florida. I'm also a Coverdell Fellow in the College of Applied Anthropology. And we have several Coverdell Fellows on here today with their counterparts. Some are having some technical difficulties getting on, but we will try to convey their responses. And we hope you enjoy this discussion today, and we'll try to leave some room for questions for those who are not part of the panel as well. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with just the first question that we have for everyone, which is just giving a brief introduction of yourself, your counterpart. If you're both on the call, you can both introduce yourselves, or if you're not on the call, you can introduce your counterpart. Maybe give a greeting in the local language if you want, just your name, country of service, your current location if you are in a different location, and what years you served or worked together, and what sector the volunteer was in that you were working with. So we'll go ahead and just get started with that, and whoever wants to jump in first.
I can go ahead and start. Hello, everybody. In Panama, the official language is Spanish, but where I lived at, there was an indigenous group that I worked with, and they spoke No Verde. So the greeting for good morning would be Queen Diego. And today with me, I have my lovely program manager, Martin Cardales, and he is currently in Panama and getting ready for volunteers and everything. But he is a program manager for the health sector, or the WASH program that I worked for. And we worked together from 2019 to 2020 for about 9 months.
Okay, I'm going to try this now. So, Batata.
I wonder, sorry, I just want to hop in really quick. Thank you so much, Shelby. Can we go like volunteer counterpart for those that are on the call? So can we also say hello to Martin and have Martin greet yourself or greet us as well?
Thank you so much. Buenos dias, saludos, good morning from Panama. This is Martin. I'm the program manager for the health program, for the Peace Corps Health Program in Panama. And But before, I was the programming and training specialist for the WASH. So we switched it from the WASH program to the health program now. So I got to know Shelby when she was serving in a rural indigenous community in Panama. She was a water and sanitation and hygiene volunteer. So for about 9 to 10 months, when her service was shortened due to the pandemic. So yeah, I've been working for Peace Corps for about 5 years. So thank you for inviting me. And yeah.
All right, I'm going to try this again. So Batata, posheniko mkoimu chisimbu.
Yeah, I greet everybody inside of your meeting.
Okay, so
I greet them.
So bushe shinaliye unimwe banani Batata.
My name is Christopher Manmela. Manmela is my surname.
And how do we know each other?
I'm being chief advisor.
But how do you and I know each other?
I do anything.
Okay, natutela makwai batata. So
Now I get my house. I came from Matakombe, mommy.
so that was my host dad. I served in Peace Corps Zambia from 2015. Hold on.
Hello.
So my name is Christopher Nemger. I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Zambia from 2015 2017. I worked in the agricultural sector, and now I am a third-year PhD student in the Civil and Environmental Engineering department.
Thank you. So nice to meet you and your host dad. We can hear him, so that's nice. It's kind of cool to hear you two speaking together as well. So we can go to the next volunteer and counterpart.
Okay.
Julie, why don't you go next?
Okay. All right. So my name's Julie. I served in Sierra Leone from 2019 to 2020. The local greeting is Couche, and also accompanied by Audi Body, which is essentially, hello, how are you? How is your body? And you would say, the body fine, meaning, or the body well, or, you know, things of that nature. Or I tell God thank you, which is just like, I'm fine. You know, I tell God thank you for, you know, being fine. I always kind of like that part. I'm currently in Orlando I'm currently in Orlando, but I'm studying social work and public health. And my counterpart, who is not here, his name was Mr. R.J. Kamara. He was one of the teachers at the Columbia Secondary School. And yeah, we worked together for 9 months in the educational sector.
Awesome. Thank you, Julie. And I think Tracy.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tracy. I have my counterpart on my phone, but he can't join, so I just have him on WhatsApp. And so I'll just introduce myself and then he can introduce himself because I've turned the volume up so he can hear. So we'll just speak that way. So hello, everyone. I could say Mambo, which is a greeting in Swahili. I served in Tanzania and I worked with my counterpart, Mwalimu Ndela. He's the teacher. And so I will let him introduce himself and I'll flip the phone so maybe you can see him. So Mwalimu, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. My name is Humphrey Ndela, a counterpart from Tanzania. I love you so much. Thank you.
Awesome. Hello.
Do you want him to, what else do you want us to introduce?
I think that's okay. Thank you. It was nice to meet you all. Thank you all for working around, you know, whatever technical difficulties we're having. I'm loving it. Let's keep just rolling with it. Okay, so the second question we have is just to break the ice. I wanted to see if maybe, like, you know, for those of you who your counterparts couldn't make it on the call, maybe there was something that you remember you talked about with them, but what is just one of the most memorable experiences that you had together during your Peace Corps service or during your volunteers Peace Corps service? And if you are both on the call and you both want to answer different stories, that's great too.
I have one, like
Awesome.
right off the bat.
Awesome.
It honestly happened shortly after I got to site for like my site visit. There was a woman that was gonna like help me that week, like just figure out where things were. And I remember I thought she said her name was Ramada, right? And there happened to be a girl in Peace Corps with the exact same name, and who was like very helpful in things. And I was like, oh my gosh, what a coincidence! She has the same name. I called this woman Ramada for like an entire month, before we realized that like I misunderstood what her name was, because I learned Creole, but she spoke Timne. So like a lot of our conversation was like me saying things in English, but her not knowing what I was saying, and her saying things in Timne, but like she didn't know what I was saying. And then my broken Creole, she could like understand what I was saying. So when I finally realized that her name was like Fatimata and not Ramata, my counterpart and I had the biggest laugh. And it came up multiple times throughout my service because I had this like giant miscommunication. And I was talking to this woman like every day, but she was responding. So maybe she just didn't realize I was saying her name wrong, but it was hilarious. And we laughed about it all the time.
Love it. Thank you for sharing, Julie. That is, I feel like that's a very common one, just like language miscommunications early on in service. So thank you. Who would like to go next?
So me and Martine can go next. We were talking yesterday, we both agreed like the most memorable moment for us is, I'm not sure if every post does this or it's just Panama specific, but we have a community like analysis that you work on during your first 3 months. And it's just an opportunity for you to understand what your community needs and expects from you and kind of build that relationship and trust. And so after like 3 months of me doing that, Martine took a trip out to where I was living, and he came and helped me talk to everybody and kind of explain Peace Corps again. And then afterwards, the women of the town had prepared this really large meal, and it was a really cool experience for kind of me and Martine to talk to everyone at this meal, and him kind of like to see the relationships that I had built, and to get to know people like that were around me all the time even better. So that was really cool. I'll drop a picture in the chat so you guys can see our little meal we had. Martine, do you want to add anything to that story?
Yeah, thank you, Shelby. And yeah, it was a great memorable moment for me too, because when I traveled to your community to visit you for the first time, and to have you were going to have that meeting with the community members. So they like you told me, and a neighboring volunteer told me that you were going to have a dinner there with the water committee. So I remember that I brought fish. I pick up fish, and I brought fish, and the community members said that, oh, we are going to prepare the meals for everyone. And it was a nice moment there, just telling stories about the community, about the priorities, the needs in the community, but also about talking about Peace Corps and the past volunteers that work in the region. So it was a nice moment to like have a cup of coffee, meals, and chatting with the community members, and with Shelby and another volunteer, Peace Corps volunteer, Tristan, that joined us there. So thank you for sharing that story, Shelby.
Thank you both. Does Chris or Tracy want to chime in on this one?
Chris, do you want me to go? Okay, so we're just introducing how we met each other and got started. So I met Molly Humphrey, the teacher, Humphrey and Della, who's my counterpart, who's here. So when I moved to my village, everybody spoke Swahili except for Molly Mundawa. And so when I first got there, my Swahili was not very good because it had just been a couple months. And so I immediately found Molly Mundawa, and I was like, he helped me with understanding because he also speaks English. And so that's how I first met him. And he was a lifesaver, helping me understand Swahili. And then after that, we were talking more and figured out that we have a lot of the same interests of empowering the girls and the students and for different health topics like HIV and AIDS. And so we did a lot of work together, first with some of the youth girls and then later with the students at the school. And so that was the first time, though, that he was the only person who knew English. And so he saved me. He helped me a lot. And so, Mayimdo, do you want to introduce yourself and maybe say, you know, what first happened and how we were working together?
Yeah. Actually, my society in general, because the GRS taught our little girls to change their behaviors, not to rush in marriages. So you had a positive contribution in our. Thank you very much.
I think we lost sound a little bit on that. Can you maybe reiterate what he said, Tracy?
Wait, can you say it again? I didn't hear everything. Walim,
Yes.
can you please say again? I didn't hear.
Yeah. In my society, we the young girls were just rushing me every marriages. So when came in my society, and we started educating those young girls about the negative impact of rushing to the early marriages. My society accepted it, and we redeemed the girls. The girls stopped rushing to early marriages. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, because you have assisted my society. Thank you very much so much.
Okay, thank you. And I think,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
Sure. I'm sure if you want to come on TV, go.
Oh, no. Batata, landeni como kwai.
Yeah. Now, thank you very much to get the communication from Zambia to America. I'm very happy and I agree with them because now I knock off from the king. I'm a chief advisor. So thank you very much.
But so all right, so well, we were trying to communicate with him. Hold on, Batata. So I think that we were talking about, well, I usually call him up once a month now just to check in on him. But I think we were talking, like, one of the favorite times was when like my parents from America came and visited me in Zambia, and they got to meet my host family. We had a big lunch, and that was pretty much it.
Love it. Thank you. And I feel like food is, you know, what bringing together for meals is such like a important part of getting to know our coworkers in Peace Corps. So I think a couple of you mentioned meals, which is something special. So thank you, Chris. So we'll go on to the next question. We'll skip that one. Okay, so let's go to what is one project that you worked on together that you think had the most sustainable impact on your community? This could be a collaborative response between you and your counterpart, or it could be a different response from each of you. And so who would like to go first?
I can go. Me and Martine can go first. So A project that has sustainable impact on our community. So during the time, we were doing a lot of capacity building within water committees. Basically just like local groups that were in charge of the water system and the water treatment and things like that. But where I was living at, kind of out near the Costa Rican border, really far away from the capital, there wasn't a lot of interaction from government officials at all, really. So working with the office and with Martine, right before I got there, and it continued on while I was there, we started this water committee co-op where we brought multiple communities together to kind of talk about shared needs or shared ideas, and trying to get, because of more numbers, more attention was the idea. So we're trying to get more support from the government. And that whole project was definitely due to our help with the office and with Martine, and because they've worked, with water committees for so long. So that was really cool having his help through WhatsApp and sustaining that project, because I think a lot of the community members saw like the impact we had in large numbers, and we were able to get more attention from the local government and things like that. So that was a really cool project that I'm glad that we could work on together.
That's great. Thank you. And I don't know, Martine, do you want to either add to that story, or do you have a different story maybe, or?
I think he's frozen.
Is he frozen? Oh no. Okay. Uh-oh. Well, hopefully he will be able to hop back on, but we can go to someone else in the meantime. So if Chris or Tracy or Julie, one of you would like to go.
Yeah, I want to talk about the project. In society, Trace introduced the keeping chicken. So he gave some people in the family, in some families, 3 chicken, so that people can grow the chicken, and then later on could take those chicken they distribute to others in order to get a good meal and to raise the income of the people. So my society accepted it, and they started keeping chicken. Although some people were not faithful, and some people were less keeping them, but the intention of the children was good to the people. And some were benefited much, although some they misused the project. Yeah, after like that.
Thank you. I'll add on to that. So while Mandela was talking about our chicken project, we had a chicken project in the village where we had 30 village community members, and we gave them 30 chickens and talked about chicken raising practices like building chicken coops and nutrition and vaccinations. And so that was really good. And then I'll also add a different project that I did specifically with Molly Mandela. We did grassroots soccer, which he talked about a little bit before, but it was so much fun. We went to a Peace Corps training that was using grassroots soccer is actually a program based out of South Africa. And what it is it uses soccer in different games and drills to teach the students about HIV and AIDS, or nutrition, or gender equality. And so that was a really fun. We did it with the class sixes the first year and did it, and it was really cool to see the kids learn the different concepts. And then we had a graduation party, which was super fun, and the kids were able to do one of the games with their parents. And then we were doing it again with the next year's class sixes, but unfortunately, because I was evacuated slightly early, I had to leave early, that we were not able to finish. But I think that the students really enjoyed it, right? Right, Malim?
Yeah, the students enjoyed so much, and we are still continuing with the project of teaching soccer. Yeah, we're educating those students through soccer. Students are happy, and they go back to their homes and visit their it was so good. I want to see you again to come to Tanzania and promote your art. What you to assist my society. Please, I wish you to come again.
Yes, I will definitely come again, Malim. We'll teach again.
Okay, thank you both. That's great. And I want to give Martine a chance now that you're back on, if you also wanted to speak to a project that you thought was most sustainable in the community.
Thank you, and I'm sorry that Sina had internet
No
issues
worries.
here. So, yeah, I just wanted to add to what Shelley was mentioning, and actually that is one of the strategies that we are trying to implement with our new program, is trying to have like neighboring volunteers close each other. So we have meetings eventually. So as Shelby mentioned, more people, more attention from the government, and also it had a great impact when we talk about the the agencies relationships. So we could have like 3, 4, 5 communities getting together and having a meeting while having some counterpart from the government, from the Ministry of Health, and to discuss strategies about the water aqueduct systems, about wash in general, but also on the other hand, we also had like HIV event where like people from the Ministry of Health came and take advantage of having those many communities there. So it was more productive having so many people in there. So that's one of the sustainable, we call like satellite communities, like having volunteers clustering, and we are implementing that strategy for our new health program taking place.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that, Martine. And then if Julie or Chris, would you like to go?
I get you, so, and I get your family can speak, but I get them.
Okay, but Batata, so the question is, what projects we worked on together did you like?
I want to make a family. Anything in the family, I want family. I want to farm.
And farming, Bumi Boesabi, and
so now I'm going to ask you,
We can go to Trace. I'm sorry, Julie.
Hello. So the projects that I was collaborating with my counterpart on were, wait, was the question, how did we get paired? I'm sorry.
Oh, I kind of skipped that one because I think some people already talked about it. If you want to talk about that too, you can, but we went into what was a project that you both felt was maybe the most sustainable in your community.
Okay, so again, I was the education volunteer, so it more had to do with empowerment and gender equity and things of that nature. The school had a debate club that was because it was a secondary school, In my case, it was like essentially 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade students, and I taught pretty much the 6th graders. And there was a debate club that I got to work on with my counterpart. And one of my favorite debates was revolving around social media and like whether like the pros and cons of social media and, you know, potential dangers and things of that nature and like how to be safe online. And I got to be a judge at most of the debates. And it was interesting. The interesting thing about the club was, at least in my experience, a lot of the 6th graders, at least, some of them would like be very avoidant about speaking in class because like they were only allowed to speak English at school, but some of them like don't know English. So it's like the only way to communicate is like if I speak, you know, Creole to them and they speak back to me, or some of the students could like help me with the ones that didn't speak Creole but spoke something else. So I used that and kind of brought it into my classroom as well by, you know, if you know a student is not comfortable speaking, you don't keep asking them questions that maybe they don't know the answer to. You know, I might ask one student one question, and if I know the student next to them knows the answer to that same question, I would just ask them the same question to get them more comfortable with speaking. Or, you know, we would do a lot of story writing because sometimes, like I said, some students aren't comfortable speaking out loud, but their writing ability is like amazing. And sometimes, you know, I would have them write a story. For example, when school sports started happening, I don't know if your schools did that, where like a month long of just sports related activities and practicing and like preparing for it. And that's all anybody talks about. I didn't know what was happening. So I decided to give my class writing prompts about it. And then I would have students who, you know, maybe had stronger writing abilities, swap papers with students who felt comfortable talking and vice versa. And we would have them read the paper out loud. So then it was like, we could still hear from you, even though you're not ready to like speak in front of the class yet. So we did things like that about just like empowering and reminding the students, like trying to build their confidence. It was things like that.
I love that. Really cool, Julie. And also as an education teacher, I'm appreciating, I think that's like such a creative way to get the ones who are maybe writers and not public speakers to also be heard. So very cool. Thank you.
And also getting them to write about things that they care about.
Yeah.
It was like, I was very much like, I don't understand what the school sports are. I was like, tell me I was just like, what is happening this month at school? Like, you know, and then I would write school sports or something. And then I was like, what do the different colors mean? And it was amazing to get like 200 papers back with each student's level of understanding of what was happening at the school. I was like, this is amazing because you're teaching me something.
Yeah. Yeah. You used it as a way to also learn from them. That's awesome. Thank you. And I don't know, Martine, is that clapping or is that a hand?
No, clapping.
Okay, great. Yeah. I feel like that deserves some applause. That's super creative. All right, so let's go to the next one that I have for everyone, which is, what were some of the initial challenges that you had in working together as volunteer and counterparts? And how did you overcome those challenges? And who would like to go first?
I can go first. So the biggest challenges that Marty and I had working together is that we were about 12 hours away from each other via bus. So we weren't able to see each other that often, but thanks to WhatsApp and learning all my signal spots and where they are, we were able to talk via WhatsApp. And so that made things and even if it wasn't accessible, you could leave a voice message and come back to each other whenever you did have signal. So that was a pretty big challenge, but I feel like we overcame that through technology. And so.
Yes, Shelby. It wasn't easy because Shelby was in a community where the signal and the technology access was not reliable. So, but we did check-ins and leave a voice message. And when we couldn't get a hold of her, we contacted the regional coordinator, because we had a regional volunteer coordinator in that area. So they also help the office to do the visits when we couldn't go there. So this is a good resource that we have, the coordinators. We call them the regional leaders. So to overcome that challenge of the distance. Shelby was in the farther area that we have, like it was around 12-13 hours driving from the Peace Corps office. So but yeah, we made it. We could get in contact.
Yeah, thank you both. Definitely, I think distance was something I always had a little bit of trouble working with some people with in Peace Corps as well. So I can relate to that, but technology has been a huge help when we can get it to work. Okay, so I think Chris, you were trying to hop in here.
Yeah, well, I'd say probably biggest thing was like kind of cultural, just like getting used to like his cultural values and beliefs. But other than that, I was very fortunate.
Yeah, definitely. I wonder, is there, maybe this is putting you on the spot, Chris, but, and if it is, you don't have to answer, but is there like a specific cultural or belief that, value or belief that comes to mind that was like, you had to like kind of open your mind to it and be like, oh, this is just different than what I'm used to? Okay, awesome. So let's go to either Julie or Tracy.
I'll go.
Awesome.
I would agree, like, as far as like actually working together, it was very like seamless transition. He'd been the counterpart of the previous volunteer. So I think he was used to like working with an American, so that helped. And I would say we had like weird communication issues related to technology. So like the first couple months when I went to site, my phone just did not work. And it was the same deal of just, it's weird how like sometimes your phone has to adjust to being in a new place. So like I just didn't have the signal connection that I needed. So like he would just be able to find me. I don't know how, because I wouldn't be able to just call him because of also the data situation. And then sometimes he also worked at the secondary school and the high school. So that was weird because like I didn't realize that he was just gone sometimes, and that's why I couldn't find him. I was like, where have you been all day? I had questions. And then I realized like, oh, you work, at this other school as well. But same thing. At that school, whenever I would go up there, I didn't have any service up there either. So it was more related to technology. But he was, I don't know, like my counterpart was great at helping me understand how the school worked. And understanding like there are times when I can totally be independent and do what I feel like I need to do as a volunteer and a teacher. But like sometimes when like we're doing teacher meetings and things like that, like I need to be more like group focused. So he really helped me understand that, because sometimes I was just like, but I'm Julie, I want to do this. And he's like, well, no, this is how we do it at this school. Like we gotta, work this way. So he helped me with things like that.
Yeah, I hear you on that. And I think I can relate to that. I can relate a lot since I was also an education volunteer. But I think I could speak too for like my counterpart helping me understand the education system too, which was different from the one that we grew up with here, maybe in the States. So a lot of those kind of structural things too. Awesome. Thank you, Julie. And then to Tracy.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, your turn.
I remember the challenges my volunteer and I face is when the problem of time management. People in my community are not punctual time. So my volunteer to educate them about keeping time, to be punctual in time. So my people, we are not ready to cope with the time, because in my culture we are not what, we do not follow time, you know. We are not punctual in time, so it was a bit difficult for that. But people in my community, we are happy, and we are doing what my volunteer and I were teaching. Also my students, at the beginning they were not understanding English, because my volunteer at the beginning, she was facing difficult talking Kiswahili, but later my volunteer know Kiswahili, so they were happy communicating with them in Kiswahili. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'll just say both of those challenges, William, are very real. When I first got there, I did not know very much Swahili, but I was able to learn. So after, I think 1.5 years, I learned Swahili and I could talk to people very decently well. And time management, I agree. We would set a meeting for 11 in the morning, but people would not come till like 1 or 2 in the afternoon. And so it was a challenge. But later we had a meeting. Some people learned. They learned to come on time, but everybody else did not. So we had to wait anyway. And then the first people were like, why did we come early? So it was a challenge.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Casey, and then everyone who's commenting in the chat as well. I think that's a very common challenge that volunteers face, is like different relationships with time based on the culture that you're in, different, like ways of scheduling time, or and having to, I think, work both ways. Like, in some ways, like the community members and our partners work to meet us in our, maybe more like US regimented schedules. But then at the same time, we're immersed in the communities, and we also have to learn to work within those different scheduling kind of norms. So yes, and then Julie, I see you raising your hand.
Yeah, she just unlocked a memory that I completely forgot about. Like, the time thing was the hardest thing to get used to. And luckily, by the time I got to site, I just recognized that like time was not a thing. But I'm curious to know, was rain also a thing that just stopped life where y'all lived? I remember when we first got in country, it was rainy season. So there were like these torrential downpours every day. And for those of us that live in Florida, we know how summer rain storms happen, but it was like next level monsoons or something every day. So we would get ready to go to training, and our host parents would be like, where are you going? Because we're all like, it's raining, we have places to be. But they would be like, no, we don't go anywhere when it's raining. So that was, and like even Peace Corps staff, they just, when it rained, they just operated differently, and we just didn't understand that. So I was wondering, anybody else deal with that? Because I just forgot that until right now.
Yeah, I experienced that as well. Like when I was in my community, it was right, I got there right as rainy season was starting, and I would like have a plan, I'm going to go out, I'm going to talk to these people today. And then I would go out in the rain and people would be like, we don't really want to talk to you right now. Like, it's nap time. And I'm like, and that was a big adjustment. And I had to like really force myself that, okay, it's raining super hard. Like, nobody wants me in their house right now. I need to just chill and work on my own stuff.
Yeah, in Panama, it's very common that it rains like after, it rains every time, but frequently it rains more in the afternoon, like after 1 p.m. So we usually say, oh, have the meeting in the morning, and we see the volunteers like getting the people in the morning instead of, even when we go there to do the visit. Yeah, it's better to do that in the morning, because after 1 p.m. Yeah, we are gonna get the downpour.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. I can relate as well. In Ghana, definitely. I lived in the north, so we only had one rainy season, but when it was raining, it was like, it's raining, you know? So I can relate to that. And thank you, everyone, for sharing. It's a super interesting conversation on like different cultural conceptions of time and scheduling and, you know, what weather means if we still go to work or if we stay home or thank you. So let's go to the next question, which is, what did you love love about working together? And whoever would like to go first.
So I really enjoyed working with Martine because of his attitude. I feel like he was a great leader, like during training, because training is a very stressful and unnerving time. Just so much uncertainty that you're going through and so much changes. And I feel like he was always there, like smiling and ending things on a positive note to really encourage us to like do whatever we need to do our best, and like preparing us for how hard it's going to be, but also encouraging us to believe in ourselves. And that was really, really crucial for a lot of us to have like leaders like that to look up to. And so I think also because he is from Panama, he gave us also great kind of like tips and things to keep in mind about culture differences as well, like during training. So yeah.
Thank you, Shelby. I'm happy to hear you saying that. And what I love about Shelby, what I love about working with Shelby is I love the way she adapted and integrated into her community. Also, she was always smiling, and she was so lovely with her community members, and the way she connected with her host family. And even though it was 9 months, but it was 9 months it's a short time, but a long time also. And she was so lovely with her community members and trying to help them uh, to train them to overcome or to help with their priorities. They were working on starting working on the aqueduct system and the latrine. So those were some priorities that Shelby was helping them with. But the human part, it was so it was so incredible from her.
So nice to hear from both of you. Thank you. And then Chris?
I think one of the things I enjoyed working with my host dad the most was like sometimes, or we do some work, but then we knock off for lunch, or after 1 or 2 p.m. you stop working because it gets too hot during the day, and then we just sit and talk with each other. So just like kind of those quiet moments where you're just like sitting and talking and just laughing with each other was probably one of the most memorable and favorite things.
That's awesome. And I will say too, just from like hearing you and your host dad converse on this Zoom call today, I feel like I get a real sense of like how easily you can just talk to each other. And you also sound like you reached a pretty like high level in your country's language, which is awesome. But probably higher than you think. But so that is cool to hear that, your relationship is still like very viable even over the phone, those conversations. So let's go to either Julie or Tracy. You'd like to hop in, Tracy.
Thank you. I'll add, I
Tracy,
really,
can you share with us first what he said, because we
Oh,
couldn't
yeah.
hear it very well.
Oh, okay, you were breaking up a little bit, but basically what he said was that he was very happy with the work that we could do together to empower the girls, because in Tanzania, soccer is often for the boys. The boys get to play soccer, but we were able to play together, the girls and the boys, and include the girls. And so that was very empowering, and they were very happy that the girls could play also. And then he also said for the chicken project, it was cool how I would visit all of the houses and teach them individually and spend time with them. And I also want to say, Mwalimu, I really enjoyed working with Mwalimu Humphrey, because he has such a passion for the people of Tanzania and for the girls of Tanzania, to empower them, and that there should be gender equality and respect as well. And so we started with the girls who were not in school anymore, and hoping that we would help them not get married very early because they weren't in school. And then we continued to the students, and then we were going to continue with a pig project. And we were just going to keep going because we just wanted to do everything we could. And I really admire your passion, Mwalimu.
Thank you so much for sharing, both of you. And Julie, would you like to finish us on this question?
Yes, there we go. I think I unmuted myself. My counterpart, which I feel like everybody has to be who's a counterpart, was very patient with me. And the like changes of being that were coming from being a new volunteer, he was very understanding of how hard it was for me to adapt to my new life. Like, especially with that first month when I got to site before school had started, he and I was like just trying to get used to the jarring thing of living by myself in a house by myself in a new country. He would come visit me every day just to like check on me and make sure I was okay with like being in a new town, after having a host family, or like he would walk me around town to like meet people or like see different places that, I would eventually venture out to for myself. Like he was the person that would like, even before school started, would show me where the market and like how to get food and stuff in town, like just things I wouldn't have known how to do. And then as far as school was related, he was very hands-on when he needed to be, but then like was also like, you've got it. He would empower me to like do what I did, because sometimes I was concerned that, I don't teach like the other Sierra Leonean teachers. Like I'm not Sierra Leonean, I'm not used to the educational system, and I just would do things differently. Or he would empower me to ask for what I needed in the school. So like when they make a new school schedule at the beginning of each term, and I was like, I need a double period to teach my ELA classes, since I had to write everything on these massive blackboards by hand, because sometimes they didn't have books. So my writing on the blackboard was their notes. So I had to be really strategic about how I wrote everything to make sure they could all see it and it made sense for their notes. And he was very instrumental in making sure that I got that double period I needed. And as opposed, so like a double period for me would have been like an hour and a half maybe versus 45 minutes. I was like, I have to write all this stuff out by hand. I was like, I need more time, because some of the teachers didn't write as much as I wrote in their other subjects. I was like, I'm filling up this blackboard with, not only things that are in my teacher book, but also activities that I was adapting. Like, so sometimes I would use the book activities in the book, and sometimes I would like create some of my own. And I was like, I really want to make sure I have time to write, and I want to make sure they have time to write, and we have time to discuss what I'm writing. Like I really wanted to make sure we had that. And he was really encouraging of me to do that because it was working. He was, the principal, it was so weird, didn't love that I would give assessments. Like, I guess they only wanted them to do like the school exams at the end of the year. But I was like, I have to do assessments every couple of weeks. So I know if what I'm saying makes sense to them. I need to know what they don't understand. So I know what to reteach. And my counterpart was very much like, if that is working for you, keep doing it. He was like, if your students are learning, if this is helping your students to learn, he was like, keep doing this. He was like, it's fine. I will like have your back. He was like, it's working, keep going. So just things like that, like not only just empowering the students, but empowering me. I don't know about you guys, but I had like 80 plus students in my 4 classes. And it's kind of like, how do you keep that many kids engaged at one time? So I got to a point where I wanted to make sure everybody was speaking in my class. And I was like, how do I do that? I want to make sure I at least hear everybody's voice. So, and when I was learning their names, I was like, how about you all stand up, like all, 100 of you. And when I say your name, because I was like, I got to get this right. There's 100 of you. I've got to know your names. I'm going to say your name. And if I get your name right, you also have to answer a question of some kind. So it's kind of like around the world with their names and questions. So if you're still standing up, that means 2 things. I still don't know your name and you haven't answered a question correctly. So we would just kind of keep doing that. And it helped. Like I learned their names, and I got to hear everybody's voice. So it was great.
Very cool. Thank you, Julie. And I can totally identify too with my counterparts being like just great supports and also empowering me in my role as a volunteer. So thank you. Okay. So the next question I have, and yeah, okay, so we've got to 11:30. I'll try to leave a couple minutes at least at the end for if anyone who's on here has any questions, but I do have 2 more questions. So just bearing that in mind. So the next one I have is, what did you learn from your volunteer or counterparts? It could be something related to the sector you served in, something about the culture, anything, just like something that you remember now still that you learned from your counterpart, or if you are the counterpart, from your volunteer.
Take time. Take time. And it's Creole is like take Tim, like that, but take time. Like the culture is so big on like resting. It's kind of like do the work you have to do and then take time for yourself and rest, and like just sitting and getting to know your community. That's probably the biggest takeaway, especially coming back here after like living such a different life. And I feel like we came right back and picked up on the like must be busy at all times thing, even after, we weren't quarantined anymore. And sometimes I really have to say, you need to stop. It's okay to not do work today. It's okay, like tomorrow is coming. So I say taking time is definitely what I learned.
It's a good one. Thank you, Julie.
Yeah, kind of going off what Julie said, I learned a lot about time from Martine, and especially when it comes to like meetings and greeting people and sitting with them and getting to know them, like all that stuff takes a lot of time, and like your expectations of time are going to be completely different. So meeting people where they're at and being fully present for them for as much time as they need. I think I learned that pretty heavily from Martine, especially going to site and then being inside and being like, okay, this is what they were saying during training. Like I see it now, and not taking things too personally as well, because people are living their own busy lives with their own families and their own struggles going on. And I think like as Peace Corps volunteers, you're it's like, this is my job, this is my passion, this is so important to me. But you have to remember, like leaving time for everyone else, because if you meet them where they're at, they're also going to do the same with you, and see the passion and drive that you have as well.
Yeah, thank you, Shelby. And what I learned from you was your flexibility and resilience that you had during your service in the community of Nudovity. That's the name of the community, Nudovity. So, and we were speaking about time, like people came late to meetings. And so, yeah, I really appreciate the flexibility that you had when it happens, but also like getting different strategies to have a great integration with your community members, especially during the first months during service, like having that connection and or developing that trust and connection with the community members. So I really appreciate that, and I learned that from you. So your passion to serve.
So when I asked my host Ed this question, he said just American culture. You know, he really enjoyed learning about some stuff that goes on in America. But then I think one thing that I learned from him is just go along with like taking your time is just patience. I mean, there are things, sometimes you won't be able to do something today. You just gotta, or, you know, you weren't able to meet with everyone. You just gotta be patient.
Yes, we can hear you. Do you want me to go first? Oh, okay. The question is, what did you learn from me and what did I learn from you? So I can go first, though. You can think about it for a second. So one thing that I really learned from Walimu Mdewa was, along with patience, is investing in people. And if there is something that you want to work on, such as gender empowerment or reducing corporal punishment and chopping at schools, is that you can't just come in and tell them to change. You really need to invest in the people and build relationships and make friends with the teachers, and then have those conversations later to share your perspectives. Like, you can't come in bullheaded, you have to invest in the people first. So that's one thing that I learned from Walimu Mdewa. Your turn.
So what I learned from my volunteer Chris is that Chris was structuring was very big different in my society, because in my society we're not doing care. So Chris taught us about care time and said that times everything we must set it priorities, etc. So what I learned from Chris about time is something which has positive contribution in my society. Also, what I learned from Chris was not happy when she started teaching our students punishment. So he talked to me much about it, and I changed my mind, and I stopped making much punishment to students. And I was just encouraging my fellow teachers to stop, although sometimes it's difficult because they have, it's a tradition of teaching students, you know, in my society. So slowly we are going to take it, and one day they will change. They stop teaching students.
Thank you. I'm not sure if you all heard him very clearly, but he was saying the first thing that I taught him and people in my village was about time management, and how you need to set priorities. But the second thing that I taught him, which I'm really happy, is that he said, when I got to the village, I did not like corporal punishment and how the teachers were beating the children. And so I was able to convince him that it was not the best method. And so he stopped beating the children, and he's also talking to other teachers and trying to promote other means of discipline rather than corporal punishment.
Thank you both so much. Thank you everyone for answering that one. And then my last question I have for everyone today is, how has your experience of Peace Corps through forging these partnerships affected your lives and careers and goals, or one of those three things? And this obviously goes both to volunteers and to counterparts.
Yeah, so I'll start. For me, I think my experience in being a Peace Corps volunteer has definitely, in my career, I feel like going to make me a better practitioner of public health and a more like empathetic researcher for sure, because I've had an experience where I've had to be in a completely different culture and to learn how to work with people completely different from me, and to kind of get through those challenges, I think has been tremendous. And also, like, it's made me think about like my values in health in completely different ways and how that looks in different cultures. So I definitely think it's gonna make me a better practitioner, and also just a better human as well, in whatever profession I go into in health or whatever organization. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, definitely Peace Corps has transformed my life too. And before I joined Peace Corps in 5 years, like, I joined Peace Corps, like I've been working for Peace Corps for the past 5 years. But before I joined Peace Corps, I knew very little about like what Peace Corps did. So one thing that had impacted my life is, like, I really appreciate the dedication of service of the volunteers that come to our countries and serve our communities. So that's something that I really like, and I promote. Like, I foster that environment or that service with our families or fellow community members, like to collaborate and to serve others. So that's something that I really appreciate. Like, you dedicate 2 years of your life, and you will be, or were supposed to be doing something else, but you come to our countries to serve. So that's something that has impacted my life. And so another thing is that the Peace Corps approach to development, which is like people to people. We have been talking about this, and like having that connection and developing that trust, instead of like telling people what they need to do, like just supporting them or helping them, providing them the resources through education to empower them and develop their capacity. That's something that has really impacted my life, and I also try to promote that approach. I always think about, like, for example, when we had the WASH program, we saw many aqueduct systems that the government built, and they last like 3 years, 4 years, and the system were completely broken because the community members were not trained, or were not trained, or were not empowered to operate the system. So thinking about that, so to me it's really important, like, to empower people to do their to operate, or to do their to collaborate, to help them to work on their own priorities. So that's something that has impacted my life.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Shelby and Martine. And who would like to go? Chris, I think.
So when I asked my host the other question, he said that it's just affected his life in a positive way. And that's about the most amount of communication that I could get across or communicate with them. But, I think, like, in general, I think, you know, as a Peace Corps volunteer, you always get more going into like a different community than you can really give to that community. But so I think, you know, it's just like a better, like more empathy, or I've definitely become more empathetic. But also just like it has kind of changed what I want to do as a career, which is into like international engineering for development. So, and that's why I'm here at USF. So.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. Who's next?
Okay. I agree with what Chris said. I definitely feel like I got more out of Peace Corps than what I was able to offer, especially because it got cut short. But I'll say, I know we're so used to, you know, using direct forms of communication in America. And a lot of times when I was in service, I felt like it took me a minute to realize that people weren't asking me for what they needed. Like there was a roundabout way to getting to what somebody wanted me to do. And it took me a little time to realize that there's so much indirect communication just because, I don't know, I guess that's the way communication works where I was serving. So it kind of made me realize, listen to what people are saying, but also listen to what they aren't necessarily saying. Like pay attention to other things about their posturing and things like that. And also, like y'all were saying, the importance of the collaboration aspect. I think we'll be so much better in this, you know, public health field because of our ability to collaborate with just about anybody and the importance of collaborating with people from different disciplines. I think that was a really big thing. And also just, I know when I went into Peace Corps, I didn't know what I was gonna do next. Like I had all these things that I was interested in, but I didn't know where to go from there. And during my service, I realized that like public health was something I was really interested in, even though I was a volunteer, like an education volunteer. I was like, there were aspects of public health that really had always kind of stuck to me and that I wanted to explore. So I think all around, you know, my service was a good decision. It was great all around.
William, you're up.
Yeah, thank you. For me, this book has been in my society because in my society, we neglect women. We do not consider women as valued people. So this book has brought education in my society, the education in my society, educating them to value each other. We are human beings. We have to respect each other. I like the Peace Corps, the way it affects my society to engage in economic activities. You know, people are just staying without most of people just staying with them, just writing there, just writing there. So this through our volunteer took them to how to keep chicken and how chicken can make food in family, also can increase income of the family. So
Thank you. So if you didn't hear him super well, I'll just reiterate. So first he said that in his country, which is Tanzania, women are not always valued and appreciated. And so one thing that he took away was how we're all human beings and that we should respect everybody. And then another thing was income generating activities. Sometimes people tend to waste time when they're not in the fields or they're not doing their job. And so he appreciated how you can use that time and you can use skills to do income generation. And he says that he hopes, I don't know if he was referring to me or everybody, but everybody is welcome to go to Tanzania and to hang out and contribute. And I'll say for me, myself, my Peace Corps experience, I love Tanzania. I love Itaga. I love everybody in my community and all of my friends. And this experience has definitely shown me that I want to continue working either in Tanzania or in East Africa with people of a different culture. And so that is what I'm working towards right now in university, is to hopefully be able to go back and continue working with different cultures.
Awesome. Thank you all so very much. It's 11:24, so we've got about like 6 minutes to 11:30. So I'll open it up to anyone who's not in the panel. If you have any questions that you want to pose to the group or to someone in specific, feel free to unmute yourself and ask, or you can put a question in the chat. We'd love to hear your questions too. And this could be anyone. I think we have one student maybe who joined. I think we also have Lauren and Patty and Tina. If any of you have questions that I didn't think to ask, or actually if any of the volunteers or counterparts think of a question that you want to pose to the group, that's fine too.
We have a question. Go ahead. Okay, he is asking Peace Corps, will we come again to Tanzania or we will not come again? That's the question.
The $1 million question. I think we're trying to, and I don't know. I think Martine, maybe you can even speak to this more than I can. I don't know if you're still working with Peace Corps, but I know Peace Corps is working to reestablish volunteers in countries that they had previously been in before the pandemic. And it is a work in progress, and we're still waiting to see volunteers start going back into the field. So we're hopeful. We're remaining hopeful. I don't know. Martine, are you still with Peace Corps? Maybe you have some thoughts on this too. I'm not sure.
Yes, and yeah, I am working for currently working for Peace Corps, and yeah, that's the same. That's the same thought that I have. We are also hopeful. We are hoping to for the volunteers to return. Hopefully, they return next year. We don't have a potential date yet, and yeah, I know that in Panama, the Peace Corps office is working with and I believe all of the posts are working and giving proposal to HQ headquarters with the current situation of the country, but we are on the same situation, waiting for the volunteers to return.
So we're staying hopeful. Thank you for sharing, Martine. That's a great question. Thank you. So any final ones? We've got another 3 minutes. If not, I will just, I guess, take these last few minutes to close and thank you all so much for being here and sharing your perspectives today. To both our Coverdell Fellows at University of South Florida and your counterparts from your countries of service. Martine, thank you. I'm glad we could see you. And to our other counterparts who we couldn't see today, we thank you for being a part of the conversation as well, in whatever capacity you could be. We got to hear your voices a little bit, which was nice, and also hear some of your responses through your volunteers. So thank you so much, everyone, for giving your time to this panel today. And I'm going to stop recording.